Welcome to the OIC, otherwise known as the Omnipresent Information Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Peterson.
And I'm the co-host, Noah Hansen. The Omnipresent Information Connection Podcast is all about your world and your unique walk on this path called life. We present fascinating, life-changing information from around the world that has been validated. We also authenticate the information by providing you with links to where you can find out more about what we are talking about on our show. This podcast includes historically accurate, genuine facts that have helped shape our daily lives into what they are today. Welcome, one and all, to another episode of Omnipresent Information Connection Podcast. I'm here with Kevin Peterson. My name is Noah Hansen. How are you doing today, Kevin?
Great. I am doing wonderful.
Are you feeling emotionally, physically, and spiritually whole and complete today?
Oh, I definitely am.
That's wonderful. Me too. And it's all because of my walk with Jesus Christ. It's all because he has guided me through these last few days in a way that has been powerful, transformational, and really helped me to apply what we've talked about in the last 3 podcasts.
Excellent.
Emotional, physical, and spiritual intelligence, once applied, will change your life in a positive way on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it instills a whole and complete transformation in oneself, and that's the topic of the podcast today. But before we get into that, I want to extend a thank you to our listeners and everyone who has liked our podcast, commented on our podcast, and been able to share it with friends and family, because that allows us to share the teachings with other people that have made such an impact in our own lives that we know is powerful and is going to be powerful in sharing with other people. So that's important.
Oh, I see.
Now, on top of that, we have mentioned that we have new merchandise up on our store. So I want to remind you that if you haven't seen that new merchandise for the OIC podcast, it really does look professional and it's got a celestial vibe to it. So I think that a lot of you will enjoy having a nice Galaxy t-shirt with the OIC podcast on it. And every cent that you pay forward into that merchandise store is then paid forward even further to be able to benefit the lives of some people who can benefit from your financial contributions most. If you'd also like to aid us in our mission, in our vision, then we also have a Patreon page that'll be in the description of this podcast where you can become a patron to the OIC podcast. And that will get you special benefits that are listed on that Patreon page.
So make sure that you write that down and so that you can be refer back to it later. And the most important thing is that these links help you to be able to link you to other like-minded people that help you to be able to become the best you possible.
Yeah, so understand, listeners, when we tell you to write something down, it's not because we're trying to give you homework. It's because that it's really made an impact in both Kevin and I's life to be able to have a notepad on hand, because that allows us to remember the teachings and apply them to our lives and to be able to let it resonate within our being, because we have that in a solid form right in front of us so that we can see.
Absolutely.
And of course, there are scientific studies that have been done that show that writing things down does help your memory, does help you to remember those things.
Oh, I see.
I see. So let's get into it. How has being whole and complete emotionally, physically, and spiritually benefited your life, Kevin?
How it's benefited my life is that I no longer do things on a solo basis. Everything that happens in my life happens with other people in mind. Let me give you an example. Obviously, of course, I don't need, assistance in breathing or seeing or any of those, facets of my life. But when it comes to communication, we've got a large, vast amount of people, very experienced, very expertise type of people that we become connected with. And so when you become whole and complete as a person, you then start making connections with other people that are not only like-minded as you, but also may have even more information than what you have, to be able to give to another person to be able to kind of pay it forward. And so it becomes a strong pay it forward type of a program or system in your life, because when you're talking with people, and if you don't happen to have that answer, when you are networked like we are, we're able to then connect these people to people that have more information so that they can be able to become whole and complete as themselves.
That's right. It's important to get multiple perspectives on an idea and a topic, because when I have thought that I know it all about a topic, you'd be surprised the type of people that I can learn new things on this topic from. And this can include children. This can include people who you'd never expect to be able to give you insight and clarity on a certain topic or idea, and give you another step and another piece of the puzzle that helps make a whole and complete picture that you never knew was even possible.
Absolutely. So, in my everyday walk with Jesus, is that I have this unique opportunity to be able to talk to people that many people are at work and have to be able to have jobs and those sorts of things. My freedom that I have enables me to be able to talk to and be with people that have the knowledge, the information, the wisdom, the things that I'm craving for at the time to be able to receive in my life so that I can become a gift onto another human being.
What a wonderful blessing that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to add that as an emotionally, physically, and spiritually intelligent person, there is a difference between those three aspects, and being someone who knows it all.
Correct.
Some of you may think that once you're emotionally, physically, and spiritually whole and complete, there's no other steps to be taken. That is just one level being reached in authenticity.
Right, because the three elements that I talked about, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, those are the elements that help make you you. Once you authentically become whom God appointed you to become, then you take on different roles, different positions, and different scenarios and situations that you would have, if you were less whole and complete, couldn't do.
Right.
So it's all about leveling up your life in a manner that emotionally, physically, and spiritually enhances you in every way. But to be able to make it a little bit more intimate is that it helps anyone that comes in contact with you become even that much closer in their walk as well.
That's right. And we've mentioned it on this podcast before that every time that you get in front of a person, that is an opportunity to leave that person better than whence they came.
Absolutely.
And that is, I think, a great intention to have throughout your day. I'm not really big on mantras. There was a time in my life when I was big on mantras.
Oh, yeah.
You know, repeating the same word or phrase over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bible talks about that as well. But as far as keeping something in mind, as far as intention with how you're communicating with other people, I think that is a wonderful thing to write down and to be able to resonate with on your daily walks.
Absolutely, because we have our own struggles. We have our own situations that we're going through on a daily basis. What's nice about journaling is that it helps you to be able to bring all those pieces of the puzzle together to be able to form the perfect picture, to be able to clearly then and precisely understand why it is that emotionally, physically, or spiritually you elected or chose to be able to go down that path or go down that road that was either benefiting or less benefiting to those around you, right?
That's right.
And so it's your own way of being able to self-guide yourself to a higher level of success than what you could ever possibly imagine. Then what you're learning is self-talk. You're learning on how to be able to empower the self-talk mechanism within you. An example is that when writing, you're either going to experience that you're either writing more excuses, more problems, and more issues without solutions, or you're writing down the half and half, is what I like to call it, problem, solution, right? Problem, solution, right?
I hear you.
And then the third step of writing is being able to write down, had a problem, I knew instantly on how to be able to corrected it, then I taught someone else through my action of what I did, and then this is their learning lesson. So life starts becoming not necessarily all about you then. It goes from you to us, right? Or we.
That's right, because it's never a just you type of scenario.
Correct. Because you cannot suffer, you cannot struggle, you cannot do anything all by yourself. Because your communication prohibits you from doing that. It's a natural thing to where you end up communicating with someone else.
Right. And now there's a whole spiritual side to this as well. But that is a deep walk and something that we'll bring up in later podcasts. But for now, we want to just give you the basic overview of what an emotionally, physically, and spiritually intelligent, whole and complete type of person is.
So from there, once you realize that you can't struggle alone, that you can't have all these sacrifices all alone, people notice, people recognize, people see it, whether they want to talk about it or not. That's completely up to them. But people that are even not quite yet awoke yet to seeing who you are as a person still see it. They may feel uncomfortable about talking about it or bringing it up or bringing it to your attention, but they share in it if they're actually paying attention to you.
Yes, and if you'd like more of a scientific, real concrete type of walk into this information, then I recommend the Destiny and Heartbrain Intuition episode of the OIC podcast, because that shows that our hearts are so ultra intuitive that they are reacting to the vibrations that surround us in our environment. Now, another aspect of that topic is that when we are going through a lesson, when we are going through something where we aren't necessarily suited to deal with a situation outside of us, sometimes you'll receive clues, you'll receive different notions or different nudges from your environment that will put you on the right path and help you to refocus your mind. And there's also things that you can do for yourself to be able to keep yourself on track so that you can make the right decision moving forward as a whole and complete person.
Yeah, very, very powerfully said. And then you have natural given distractions.
That's right.
That are put in so that you can be able to take the pause to be able to re-examine and rethink something prior to either saying it or doing it.
That's right. And so the reason I mentioned this is because, again, we're never doing anything alone. Whatever action, whatever thought, and whatever words we're using on a daily basis are not only going to affect our lives, but even if we do these things behind closed doors, they're going to affect our families, the people that we surround ourselves with, because you will then have been a changed person because of it.
Absolutely.
Whether positively or negatively.
And being a changed person is actually someone that is well awakened to their authentic ability of what they can do. The reason why I say it in that manner is because a lot of people have talked about agendas that don't necessarily benefit other people but themselves. And when that happens is that you go down a very lonely road of self-serving that only gets you so far.
Right, and I believe this is a major reason why the Bible is so adamant on teaching against having pride.
Correct.
There is certain pride that is healthy. Pride within your relationship with God. And that's actually the form of pride that the Bible says is okay. And then, pride for certain accomplishments in life. Now, it's good to keep in mind, though, that none of these accomplishments in life are made alone.
Right, correct.
And that doesn't mean that you have anything to put yourself down because of, but it just means that this walk through life is always one that we have to be thankful for.
Absolutely.
And I think gratuity is an important aspect, how to realign yourself with that kind of perspective and mindset to be able to positively grow, because you'll know when you are in a gratuitous mindset that the choices and decisions you're making are a cumulative conclusion to what you've learned and been taught in the past.
Yes. And so let me break it down simply, is that everything you have learned in life came from someone. And then those someone thoughts, feelings, emotions, teachings, trainings, directing, and guiding all then become a part of your character. And then you carry forward all of those elements with you wherever you go. And so, even though you think, you feel, you believe that you're all alone, it's actually the resonating thoughts, feelings, and emotions from your teachers that have enabled you to be able to do that today. So, for those people that are negative, that don't have great self esteem, that don't have a great picture or view or an outcome in life, came from lesser than desirable mentors, teachers, coaches, people that didn't understand the value of self respect and self love. And so all that they know is what to emulate from their environment.
That's right. Now, we talk about the business aspect of this in The Go-Giver, which is a post on our website, inaneway.com, as well as a video that's been made on my blog, where it shows that it's really beneficial in business and in every area of life on top of that to be able to not only work for oneself and for your own benefit, but to also really, truly, and authentically desire a positive outcome in the people you're doing business with.
So, once you become emotionally, physically, and spiritually whole and complete as a person, you naturally, without thinking, feeling, and believing in, you naturally just become the element, the gift to other people that you come in contact with. And this gift is not only self-love and self-respect, but it's also the knowledge, the wisdom, the teaching, the training, the motivating, the directing, the guiding principles that work not only for you, but everyone you come in contact with too.
I'm glad you brought that up, Kevin, because that's another point that I wanted to reach in this podcast, is when you've learned these teachings, emotional, physical, and spiritual intelligence, when does it shift from just having a learning experience and now applying it to your life to actually becoming a part of who you are automatically? Being able to make choices and decisions on a automatic level without having to think about it.
Because what you're going to find out is that everything deals with frequencies, and the frequency of which you then speak and act.
Right. So if you're constantly backsliding, then you're going to put yourself on a frequency roller coaster, constantly having to climb back up to be able to fall back down.
Right. But I'm also talking about bodily frequency, as far as when you go from being a less than desirable person to a more whole and complete type of a person. Your body has a frequency. It has an emotional, physical, and spiritual wavelength to it. And that when people are happy, you literally go to a higher alpha stage of frequency, and it becomes stronger and more powerful the more positive you are about not only how you think about things, but your belief in what you say, and then third, in everything that you do with that knowledge, right?
Right. And I know I've been referencing podcasts in this episode. Here's another powerful one. If you haven't listened to it yet, we have an episode of the OIC podcast that's called The Allspark. And this shows the scientific viewpoint, but also a spiritual side of this viewpoint on what it looks like and what's happening in your body when we are at our prime, our alpha state of being.
Yeah, at our peak awareness of who we are.
Yes, and it has to do with these things called gamma brain waves.
Yep. So when you become emotionally, physically, and spiritually whole and complete as a person, you then tap into these energy wavelengths that naturally come to you. And then it naturally then connects you with other people that are resonating on that frequency too. So it's kind of like an invisible umbilical cord that is a two-way communication device that makes you want and desire to be with that person, to be able to communicate with that person, and then to be able to collaborate with that person to be able to benefit other people as well. And so imagine your ESP, something on the lines of a spiritual umbilical cord, is that the more that you get more heightened in awareness of it, more people are going to be connected to you without you having to force the connection in the first place. Listeners, have you ever walked into a room and then you would walk around the room and you would kind of feel a vibe, a kind of a frequency that, oh, this isn't quite as good of an area as this other area is?
Yes, I know, I've been there.
It happens all the time, right?
It does.
But what you are doing is you're the receptor and you are connecting to your desire points or your soul's connection to being able to be better or brighter or more aware of how people are communicating, why they're communicating, and what kind of value you can give them, right?
Right. Some people pick up if they're being lied to, for example.
Absolutely. So when walking in this crowd, imagine yourself as a walking antenna. And then you are literally being given all these different frequencies being resonated from you to other people, and then it being a ricochet boomerang back to you. But what you end up doing is just like in the old-fashioned radio to where you had to be able to fine-tune a channel, you end up fine-tuning not only who you want to socialize and communicate with, but on who you want to be able to learn from. And that fine-tune adjustment in your frequency then drives you to those people naturally without you having to be able to take that whole big spin around the room. It's almost like you can be able to look across the room, and you've heard these love stories about, I saw this person from across the room, and I just knew it was love at first sight, right?
Yes, exactly.
You have that same similar experience with your spirit energy, and it's called soul. And it's literally, and this will be in a future podcast, but it's about your soul connection to your destiny. This can be a powerful podcast because I'm going to be able to teach you on how to not only grow your umbilical cord, but to be able to teach you when you need to be able to cut it off so that your growth and development becomes even more whole, even more complete without an attachment. There's times in your life that you need to be able to solely grow with God that has nothing to do with anyone else but you and God.
Right, so even then, that's not alone.
Even then, it's not alone,
That's
right?
right.
But we have this connection, this cord. That's why we're all in one accord. The joke is that we're four people are in one vehicle, we're all in one accord, right? It's a Honda joke. But the bottom line is,
Wow.
yeah. But the bottom line is that we are all connected on an energy wavelength. And when you become whole and complete as a person, you start to be able to naturally use your soul's umbilical cord to be able to then connect with other people. And you can literally be like self-guided. For some odd reason, you just intuitively, instinctively know that you have to turn left, you have to go right, you have to go forward, or if you have to go back. And sometimes you even know that you're not even supposed to enter the room, right? You have a heightened awareness of your environment, of its energy, and its outcome. So everyone that was a little child, for the most part, wanted to be some type of superhero figure, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or the ultimate Barbie, right?
Yep.
But the bottom line is that you go from a little child wishing and wanting to becoming, but in a brand new way, right? Because Emotionally, you're whole and complete. Physically, you love not only how you look, but the way you look. Spiritually, you get connected to God that gave you the ability to be able to see in the first place these things manifesting. And then you and God, then when you bring your hands together in prayer, are then the ultimate team in being able to team up the rest of your life that you dream up, right?
That's right. There is a period of learning and applying, but when you become, it's like that learning and applying was pulling back this bow and arrow, right?
Correct.
And then once you become it, all you have to do is let loose
Yeah, launch your arrow of opportunity,
and
right?
shoot towards that target.
Absolutely.
And knowing intimately what that target is important too.
Because everything becomes aware to you for some odd known reason. And I've spent 33 years in this area of being whole and complete as a person, that you find it just a beautiful mystery as to why you end up talking to this person, spending time with that person, whatever. But when you leave that person, not only have you left them better than once they came into your life, but you have a mutual agreement of value that goes untalked about. You don't have to be able to say, oh, man, you're such a great person. Oh, you're such a great person. We both know how great we are. And our greatness stems from being whole and complete as a person, right? It's our gift that we give ourselves and others naturally. So I tell people that it's Christmas 365 days out of the year, because that when you are the gift, when you become whole and complete as a person, that's a gift, right? So when you become the gift, then you become gifted with other higher things in your life: intuition, inspiration, other things that you would have liked to have had previously, but now are more unlocked and more untapped for you to be able to then embrace and walk into, right?
That's right. So on a daily basis, you will have more awareness, more clarity, and more understanding when you are emotionally, physically, and spiritually being intelligent. And it's a choice that you have to make on a daily basis, because you can always go back into old ways, and it's happened plenty of times in, I'm sure, both of our lives.
Well, right. But the difference is when you're emotionally, physically, and spiritually whole as a person, even when you backslide, you have an awareness that you're backsliding.
That's right. Yes, and that's the difference, because it's like a light bulb. You can have that light bulb and it can be shining when you're on the right path. Then you backslide and you turn the light bulb off.
Right.
But there's a power in having that light bulb in the first place. If you've never been to a place where you've had that option to have a light bulb to turn on, right? And this is symbolic of being emotionally, physically,
Right.
and spiritually learned.
Right.
Then that's different than not having a light bulb at all, where you don't even have the steps that have been taught to you to be able to turn that light on.
Right.
So that's a major difference, and that's something I felt is worth sharing with you today.
Yeah.
Now,
And then in closing, is that when you're emotionally, physically, spiritually whole and complete as a person, you have less needs, you have less wants, and less desires, because for some unknown reason, because I'm human, there are forces that play into your life in a very positive way that is untapped to me as I'm speaking, but for some unknown reason, things start to just manifest. Things start to just develop. Things start to be able to positively go your way in such a positive momentum type of a manner that you start to be able to think, am I doing this or is someone else aiding me? And the bottom line is that when you're tapping into your wholeness of character, what you're really tapping into It's the splendid glory of knowing that Jesus is now beside you, aiding you, guiding you, and inspiring you every moment of the rest of the days of your life.
Hallelujah. Now, one last thing before we go, just to summarize, there is a power in having emotional, physical, and spiritual intelligence. Once you apply that power to your life, those teachings to your life, then it will start to become a natural transformation. Continuing on that track will then remove obstacles from your life almost naturally. Now, of course, there are some things that are inevitable in life that you can't avoid, but it will be a much smoother process getting through these obstacles and issues because of having those teachings and knowing how to apply them to your life. And so that's what this podcast is all about, being one who has stepped into a whole and complete state instead of just playing around with these teachings and not taking them seriously. And that sounds kind of harsh, but it is important. If you are just messing around with what you know is correct, then there can be a major lesson learning experience that you still have to experience.
Yes, because knowledge without application is ignorance.
Right.
And it's at its highest form. But you have to understand is that we, the people, need to wake up. We, the people, need to be able to know that there is something higher than our own understanding that is guiding us, that is inspiring us, that is motivating us to being who we are today. And the sooner you recognize on the positive spectrum on whom it is, then the negativities, the drama, the pressure, the tension, the stress, anything else negative that's in your life seems to become obsolete.
Right, because there's a bigger picture.
Because there is a bigger picture.
Most definitely.
So, knowing the source makes you resourceful. Emotionally, physically, and spiritually, if you know how to be able to always tap into your own personal greatness, then the outcome will be just that. And that's what we teach here at the OIC. If you want to be able to tap into emotionally, physically, and spiritually complete techniques and daily activities that make your life whole and complete in every possible, fathomable, imaginable way, then we have our learning courses, we have podcasts, then we have video learning services as well to be able to inspire you, to be able to guide you, to be able to motivate you, to be able to get you to the point of you entrusting yourself with the information and doing something positive and proactive with it all the days of the rest of your life. And that, within itself, is a gift that keeps on giving. And Noah and I are honored and blessed and thankful to be able to share our gifts with you today.
That's right. Very thankful for this podcast and to have you joining me here today, Kevin, to be able to speak real truth into these microphones in the ears of many of different people. Now,
Amen.
Thank you, listeners, for meeting us here in the present and allowing us to present our gifts to you today. We will meet you on the next episode of the Omnipresent Information Connection podcast. Oh, I see.
This has been another life-enhancing, authenticated podcast aired by the OIC and brought to you by the faithful OIC sponsors and contributors. Please tune in every week and subscribe to our podcast. And while you're there, explore our website with all the posts, videos, and podcasts that we have created with you in mind. While you're on the journey through our website, you will see our Patreon page where you can become a faithful contributor yourself with the freedom to be a part of our team today. Thank you.